everyone. This is Soraya back with a Purposeful Professional. Today's guest, Ashley, is part entrepreneur, part educator, and part artist. Scratch that. She is an artist and creative that has leveraged her passion for education and independent vision to carve her own path as an entrepreneur. That sounds a bit better. She's an inspiration and an ode to the self-actualized creative. This episode is one of my favorites to shoot. We had a blast discussing everything from how Blue's Clues can inspire a generation's creativity and openness, pursuing the safety of education versus branching out independently, how working in the school system is nothing like how Abbott Elementary portrays it, and we even discuss Issa Rae's impact on Black creatives as Ashley shares her own powerful vision, story, and journey with us. Let's hop into this episode and flex our artistic muscles with her. This is Soraya from the Purposeful Professional, and I'm here with Ashley Fluellen. She is an amazing just artist, human, creator, entrepreneur. You know, at this podcast, we love people who wear multiple hats, and she wears so many multiple hats artistically and beautifully. So we're really excited to have her here. Ashley, introduce yourself to the people on the podcast.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Fluellen. I am an artist and an anti-perfectionism coach. Wearing a lot of hats, I think, is a good way of describing what I do. In my coaching business, I help leaders and creatives resist perfectionism by tapping into their creativity. And in my arts world, I'm a painter, I paint portraits, and I do everything that comes with being a full-time working artist.
Yeah, amazing. And yes, the paintings in the back, that's amazing too. You have the right setting. So we want to start basically each episode this season with a segment that we call Pop Purpose. And what we like to do is we like to talk to each guest about a pop culture icon or a pop culture situation that really applies greatly to their career. So I remember in the pre-call, you told me that Issa Rae is one of your role models. And I kept on thinking, okay, why didn't I think of that? Because I think Issa and you both have this way of bridging entrepreneurship and art and kind of representing the gray area between that. I would say Issa is a creative in terms of her writing, but even with the different creative forms, I feel like both of you understand what it's like to be an artist and to be a business person and to have entrepreneurial ambitions. And I think that's not an easy line to balance. So we wanted to talk about the Times Magazine article, which states that Issa Rae had been talking about Hollywood's unkept promises. So yes, you told me that Issa Rae is one of your role models, and I could see why. Both of you are creators first and know when to put the art above the business while still being able to balance both well. That's a rare skill and one I want to celebrate with you during this pop culture segment. In the Time Magazine article, Issa Rae and Hollywood's unkept promises, she describes the impact of Hollywood relinquishing their DEI promises that made company headlines in 2020 during the height of the Black Lives Matter and social unrest. So basically, Issa's talking about, like you, there's this art, there's this activism, there's this business, and she's trying to navigate the gray area. And she's kind of upset at her industry for not acknowledging or even standing by their promises and their pledges. So we're going to get into a good conversation about that. So my first question for you is, when reading the article, were there any parallels between your line of thinking and Issa's when it comes to balancing social change and activism with artistic expression?
Yeah, I think so. I'm so glad that you sent me this article. I really feel like you just killed it with what you chose for us to talk about, because I feel like I resonate a lot with Issa. Mostly, this is going to sound horrible, but in the way that Issa just complains about it. And during our pre-call immediately after, I felt kind of bad because I was like, maybe I was too negative. Maybe my frustrations, maybe I just overdid it. But after reading this article, I definitely think that our parallel is the frustration, the desire for change, but maybe not knowing what we don't know until we know it, for how to incite that change and how to make it happen. And then, of course, working with maybe amazing people in a not so amazing institution and having to navigate the interests of yourself, the interests of your craft, the interests of the people that you're working with, and then the interests of this huge institution surrounding all of it. It's tough.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking back to the pre-call when I chose this. And I think one of the things that I said about you that I'll say about her as well is, when the art needs to come above the business. And I think that that's something that a lot of creatives don't understand or tap into. We're going to get to that, because a lot of the time it's like you are creative, you are creating, but you're creating to sell. You're creating a product to get people to want to buy that product so that you can create more art and not be a broke artist. So I think that like you said, it's about Issa having to balance all these things, her own vision, what the society needs at the time, and then also what do production companies want to see, or in your case would be what do art houses or buyers want to see, right? So it's all of these factors and being at the intersection, and it's not complaining, it's just real. You were just being like honest, and I think I loved that. I loved the honesty. So in this article, Issa says, and this is a mic drop moment for me, I recognize that I have to do well economically to be able to make change. That's frustrating. That's ugly. But I recognize that money moves things faster. And so much of what I do is with the intention to help make those moves. Do you agree with this statement or disagree? Why or why not?
Ugh, I agree. And I hate it. I agree. I actually applied for a residency yesterday. And in it, one of the questions was like, how would like this opportunity drive your practice forward? And as an artist, I don't know. I feel like you said, you brought up the broke artist trope, I guess. And it's so tough because you obviously don't want to fall back on that. But a lot of artists, a lot of people need money. Like, we need money. And I was talking to someone recently and she brought up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how it's like, if our basic necessities are not met, we cannot move up that pyramid. That is the whole point of the hierarchy. Unless you have your basic needs met, if you have the money for shelter and food, if you don't have the money for shelter and food, you're not going to be able to move up the ladder. And I feel like Issa, who is, of course, in a different tax bracket than we are at this point, she's dealing with this. Just it's like both sides of the same coin. More money, more problems. She has more money. She's trying to pour into her community. She can't incite that change unless she has like the funds to be able to do so. Basic necessities, you can't make change. So it's tough. It is ugly. Her words were, "That's ugly," but I know, what did she say? I wrote it down. That's ugly, but money makes things move faster. And it's true. Unless you have the funds, the money, things are going to move slow and there will be change, but it just won't come as quickly as one would hope, which sucks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I also think like in Issa's statement, there was kind of this underlying like nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's coming to save creators like me. So I need to be the one to invest. I need to be the one to provide the capital for those who don't have it. And I think that's kind of like what I got also from what she was saying. So it's kind of like, we do want this large scale change, but it's not just me having resources. A part of my vision is making sure other people have resources, and to get them the resources, Insecure gotta still be on HBO. Rap shit gotta work. Like all these shows gotta work because I can't commit to helping my people if I'm not getting help. And it just shows you that especially when it comes to creators of color, there are limited pipelines for help. There are limited pipelines and for help. And Issa has been able to be that person who has put on a lot of talent of color. So that puts her in a position where she understands, hey, like I can't go to, unfortunately, a Caucasian venture capitalist and say, hey, I want to create color creative or radio or any sort of diversity focused programming. And they completely back it. Some might, some won't. So what I'm kind of getting from it from a business perspective is that Issa has been the number one investor in her own project. She's been the one really driving it alongside, the key networks that trust her. And because she can't get, I guess you could say, like she can't go to, there's a big venture capital firm called like Andreessen Horowitz. I'm not saying that she can't go there, but they might not understand her vision the way that, HBO or her key collaborators do. She's kind of limited as to what she can do for communities of color. It has to come directly from her. Like she can't because it's funny because like as an entrepreneur, and I'm not sure as a if being an artist is the same thing, people will tell you, well, why can't you just get investment? It ain't that easy. They're not going to invest. Some people won't invest in the anti-oppressive vision, especially for those of us in the impact space. They don't understand it. So I got Issa right away, and I also get what you're saying in that like Issa understands my money has to be the number one thing that goes on the table even before investment. And for that reason, my money has to be there for things to move. I can't depend on outside capital.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's like my money has to be there to make things move. So therefore my money has to be there. And in order for my money to get there, everything that I am putting all this energy into has to work. And that's a lot of pressure. It takes a lot to be able to do that, which is why I just think she's such an inspiration because it is like she has created an entirely self-sustaining like ecosystem, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. Issa, girl, we see
Lisa,
you.
it's you,
We see you. And we
girl.
want to be like you. But speaking of rap shit, right? I didn't see it. Some people saw it, some people liked it. Throughout the article, right, the cancellation of rap shit and subsequent ending of Issa's creative projects is discussed. So multiple projects, Insecure ended, but multiple projects were either greenlit and then canceled. She discusses kind of having to navigate that throughout the article, right? Given this, have you ever experienced anything similar with an artistic or creative project not panning out or coming to an end earlier than expected? Have you ever experienced that? And what was that like for you?
Oh, yes. Actually, like literally 1 month ago, this happened. But it was, it's always a blessing in disguise, which is what I like to say. It's just like, it sucks when it happens, but something amazing is going to come after that. It doesn't necessarily feel like it all the time, but I feel like I have to believe that that is the case to make myself not go crazy. Do you want me to tell you like what it is? Should I go into details?
If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it.
So, a lot of my work that I do is in academia. I love working with students. College is really important to me. The academic space is really, really important to me. And this goes back to what I said earlier about like the amazing people within a not so amazing institution. And I just find myself continuing to like run into that issue is that I'm meeting phenomenal people. My social capital is low key like it's strong. Okay. I have got social capital. I meet some great people who are so like interested in pushing forward this amazing vision and like trust me with that. But there's always the stopgap of the institution, the bureaucracy, the funding, the changes that happen, staffing changes. All of this always just like seems to get in the way of actually making the vision happen on time sometimes, whether it happens at all. It's just it's a rocky road to navigate. And I think that the reason why I said it's a blessing in disguise was because I feel like for me over the last year and a half of doing business, it's looked very, how do I say this? Okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit, but it'll all come together. When I first started my business, my mentor told me to be careful not to build a single leg stool. And I did not understand what she meant until this like last iteration of me having to pivot. And essentially what she was saying, and we talked about this in pre-production, was like, make sure you have your shields up. Make sure you have multiple stool legs. That way, if one stool leg falls, your whole chair doesn't come falling under you. And this first year, I really built my single stool leg working with colleges, and it was really successful. But then, if something happens, if something doesn't happen on time, if the money doesn't come through, if the money disappears, my whole chair fell up under me. I ended up having to go back to work. And now I'm like making the pivot to just build something that's more sustainable and that will allow me to do my professional work and also be able to pour into my creative work without feeling like my whole chair is going to come crumbling if any little thing happens. Long answer.
Let me tell you, I feel you. I feel you on that. And I can only imagine like what it's like in the creative space as well, because like as somebody who not a not a visual artist, not a showrunner like Issa, but I'm very familiar with the creative process just growing up and being in dancing, being in the drama club. When we're doing a production, we're doing a whole production. Like it's a whole thing, hair, makeup, clothing, or like supplies, canvases, paint, etc. Like you prepare, and there's a spiritual aspect as well of preparation. You're drafting, you're redrafting, you're doing things over and over again. And I think that it's something is so defeating in the creative process when a project gets canceled because it's like, oh my God, there's so much work that has been done already. Even in pre production, there's so much work to prepare, from the buying of materials to the drafting to even mood boards. Like you do so much stuff to prepare. I would say mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, and then the project gets canceled. That's just crazy to me. But I think when you're in the creative field, it's something that you have to deal with. Like you have to deal with sometimes, an event venue pulling out and saying, "Hey, we don't want you to perform anymore," or even if you're in music, like concerts getting canceled. It's something that happens a lot of the time, and it's a disappointing thing. But I think it's one of the woes of like being a creator. But I love what you said about the like single stool thing. Let me tell you, one of my secret weapons is to have more than one business. And people would say, "Don't say that, Soraya. You're telling people to be." What I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be more than one business, but like what your mentor was saying, more than one vertical. So a vertical is essentially a leg of your business. So say for example, if you have a artistic coaching or artistic wellness business, you could sell some products online, like digital art prints online, and then you'll do some coaching, and then you'll do some workshops. It matters that you have more than one lineup because, like you said, the work can get really crazy really really fast, and things can be tore up from under you. And like I said, even in the position of, if you're in a field that is controversial, like if you're in a field like there's political unrest, social unrest in that field, make sure you have another even separate business, because you don't know if you'll be allowed to do this work, if this work will be outlawed or not. And that's kind of like some of my story in the DEI space. The podcast listeners know, but I don't know if the work that I do will exist in 5 years. It might become illegal, because it is now illegal in certain states and municipalities. So I've had to, see where I can build another bag
So
because,
crazy.
yeah, build a bag. I've had to see where I can build another bag because it's tough. It's really tough out here. And I love that you were real and said like, hey, sometimes we got to return to work. Sometimes we gotta pick up another side job. It's like people don't understand the realities of the work. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you. So, my next question for you is, how do you think artists can learn to navigate the gray area that exists when a piece of art or artistic expression isn't as successful as anticipated? Because there's this aspect of like things getting canceled, but there's also this aspect of like rap shit was released and it just didn't really do as well. How as an artist can you get over this project just not doing well, like navigating that gray area of like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good. Like how can you navigate that as artists?
Ooh, oh my gosh, this is such a good question. I'm so glad you're asking me this. This just goes back to what I preach in my business, which is like building an anti-perfectionist business, building an anti-perfectionist vision rather for what you want to create. I think a lot of people set expectations, as we should. Setting expectations is not a bad thing. It's really important. But when you're first getting started, nothing you do at first is going to be perfect. It's usually not even going to be like that good. It's going to take you doing the thing, doing a little bit of editing, going back, redoing the thing, doing more editing, revising, doing, revising, doing, revising, doing over and over and over again. Even once it's like, 10 years down the line and you think it's as perfect as it can get, there is always room for improvement and always room to grow. And so I feel like for me, at least, like making sure that I give myself grace in not being perfect and in just putting something out there, regardless of how I feel about it, and letting other people resonate with that piece or, that post or the podcast, just letting people get from it what they will without me inserting what I want people to get out of it, what my intention is. Like, that's all very important, but it's not the end all be all. Everybody's going to get something different. just the fact that you put it out there is already like, you've already hit the mark. That's already 100%. Now just keep going.
Mm, wow. That is inspiring because for so many of us, it's like if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. And one of the things that I think you probably learned in your artistic process that a lot of us have had to learn with content creation, when we first start out, we're not good. We're just not going to be good. And I think like there's one thing that I hear all the time and it's like you're comparing your seed to their tree. And that's so true. I think for creatives, you don't want to put your writing out there or you don't want to put your content out there because it's like I just am not as good as this person. You didn't see their first video though. They deleted their first video. They deleted their first Substack post because they know what it looked like when they first started. They're trying to give this impression of it being perfect. And even in the realm of like personal branding, like people have told me like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I was like, you know what? I need to just post. That's all I need to do. Post and over time I'll find my voice, I'll find my brand, I'll find cuz I had so much anxiety about like how am I appearing? Does this fit the brand? And I was like, "You know what? I'm not a brand, I'm a human being." So I'm gonna post what I want to post and whatever. And people started like gravitating towards it. And I just started posting what I wanted to post. I love that you say like just doing the thing because that's the hurdle that we often have to get over. Like just do it. Even if like only 100 people watch the first video, just do
Just
it.
do
Keep
it.
going. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing is that you're right. The big hurdle in our mind is even posting. It's even going up and like, telling your story. It's even getting to that place where you show yourself. Showing ourselves is a huge, huge hurdle. But at least on social media, that algorithm monster, who knows if anyone's even going to see what you posted? Like, we will spend hours and hours creating one piece of content and then 10 people see it. And what a bummer that is. I think it makes more sense, at least with the way that these platforms are built, for us to spend very little time creating and posting and getting it out there and feeding that algorithm monster rather than for us to be worried about it, spending all of this time and then nothing even comes of it. Like, get rid of the productivity. It's not worth it.
I realized like first of all, also like use your AI tools, like get ish done, get out there, put it out there. And like you said, consistency is so key because I think a lot of the time we're sitting on things and one thing that I struggled with when I first began was a lack of consistency. And as I became more consistent and learned the rules of each platform, a year in, I'm much better than I was when I first started. Like now I know how to keep engagement up because I know LinkedIn likes articles and they like facts. They like, different things for identity. And then for personal brand, they like a mix of personal and professional now. They want you to kind of blend both. So like now I know how to do it, but like I wouldn't know how to do it if I didn't have those posts that only had like 100 views or like I had to learn through the failure. I had to learn through the mediocrity. And that's a part, like being mediocre is a part of it. I wish we normalized that.
I do too. Being mediocre is a part of it. That's like, that needs to be on a t-shirt.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. So my last question for you in this section is in the name of Issa Rae, right? I honestly I see you being like the next Issa. You're gonna be the Issa of Chicago.
Oh my gosh. That is like the best
No,
compliment.
no, because I feel like you can do it. I feel like you can do it, right? I feel like you can do it. And I see the greatness in people. That's why I have this podcast. But in the name of Issa Rae, do successful Black artists and creatives have a responsibility to give back? Like, do we have responsibility to give back? What are your thoughts?
I love that you're asking this. I read the question and got goosebumps, and you just asking it gave me goosebumps all over again. I mean, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I think that it isn't black and white, though. And I'm learning that now as a founder, that sometimes giving back really does just mean giving to yourself. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, I think a lot of people are really just caught up in the community work, which is extremely important. But we cannot, as we said at the beginning of this, we cannot get to the community work if our basic needs are not met, if we are not resting, if we are not taking care of ourselves. And a lot of resistance, a lot of, tearing down these systems requires that we show up well equipped. And so we have a responsibility to give back, of course, but I think that for me, I just want to push back on that a little bit and just have more people prioritize giving to themselves first before we can give back. And then give back. Once you have enough for you, girl, give it all.
No, but you're speaking facts. So I always leave out those I always put a question to try to figure out, okay, what's the temperature? You're speaking facts on that. I also want to add a nuance of there's an unfair burden placed on creatives of color, specifically Black creatives who have been able to achieve. And I think in other communities, we don't see that same burden. We just don't see that same burden. Even if we think of the like women helping women movement, we don't see like every woman creative being told that she has to open the doors for everybody. We don't see Greta Gerwig being told all the time, you have to release a feminist film all the time because it's just about women. She's done films outside of that. So I think that there's this unique space that the Black creative occupies, and I'm sure there's a lot of literature on this. There's a unique space that they occupy that really a lot of other creatives don't occupy. And I understand what you're saying about, and I agree. Like there's a saying that like you have to make sure that your cup is filled before you can pour into anybody else's. And that's so true. I have a spirit of wanting to build not just for me, but for other people of color. But I've had to learn, like, I can't run my own energy to the ground. And like my mother would tell me all the time, you just can't save the world. Like, you can't. So there are needs. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are needs that have to be met. And I really do love that answer because it promotes this fact of like, yes, you can give, but also there's no shame in focusing on yourself. Like, don't allow the community to guilt you into thinking that you have to always sacrifice. There's a balance. I get what you're saying. There needs to be a balance.
Yeah, there really does. Yeah. And I think that even the point that you made about like comparing your seed to other people's trees, while I was reading this article, I felt inspired by the Issa effect and just like how incredible she is about building up her community. But I had to like stop myself while I was, in the gym. I had to stop myself from feeling the shame of like, I wish that I could give back more because I'm just not there yet. And you're right, there is no shame in that. And it's totally fine to not be there yet because I know that when I am there, I will give back. I also just, oof, what you just said, like, really hit me that no other community has this responsibility that the Black community does to give back. You're so right. I need to like chew on that for the next week.
It's true though. It's really like even me, like when I put out like, hey, like I need like I one time I put out like, hey, I need help, like I need freelancing help. Like the amount of Black people that were like, hey, like give me a job because we're both Black. And I'm like, ah, I wish I could help all of you all. But right now, I'm limited to just working with college students because I can only pay college student appropriate wages. Like I cannot afford people who've been working for years. I wish I could help you all. And I think even from the perspective of people just even wanting a Black boss, like wanting to work for somebody who looks like them, how many of us have that opportunity? Many of us don't. So I think that there's such a responsibility on Black creatives and Black leaders to open the door for other Black people. And that's a good thing and also a bad thing. Cause like you said, it can make you feel like Issa's here. I can't compare myself to Issa because dang, like Issa, pay my credit card bill. Like
For
we're
real.
not on the same level right now.
For real.
But I would love to work. I always said, like, if Issa, like, I joke with my family and I'm like, if Issa calls me, I'm on that flight to LA because she's the type of person that I know working with her can change my life. She can put my podcast on radio. We can have that type of relationship, So I think like we will get there. We will be those people that people will say, hey, like, Ashley can change my life. I'm on that flight to Chicago because she DM'd me right away,
I
we
hope
will get there.
so.
We will definitely get there.
Yeah.
But it's just not right now. And it's like not rushing your process. But like you said, keeping your own needs in mind. And then when you can, doing. When you can give.
Yeah. I also think one more point on this. Part of the reason why I'm so inspired by Issa, I saw an interview of her like way back in like the awkward black girl days, like way before Issa was Issa Rae. And she was talking about how as she has grown, what has worked for her is like partnering with people who are at the same level as her, like partnering shoulder to shoulder instead of upwards. And a lot of people feel the need to network upwards because they want that kind of like quick success or just working with somebody who already has it. They're going to, open that door for you. But working with people who are in your same boat, what's the saying? It's like you'll get there if you want to get there faster. What is it? Is it no? But what's the other one? If you want to get there, I don't remember. There's a lone version and a faster version. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Wait, is it if you want to go far, go alone? If you want to go faster, go together? Is that it?
Yes. Okay.
There's like a
If
quote.
you
It's
want to go
something like,
fast, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that especially for us, like founders, youthful founders, it is so important for us to go far together rather than going fast alone, rather than networking up with the one person. It makes more sense for us to all lock arms, all 10 of us, and make it as far as we possibly can with the time we have.
facts. Because I was speaking about that today. It's funny how like we're going over things that I like literally was speaking about today. I was saying that we need each other in this game and we need to link with each other. And unfortunately, I come from a background where I talk about this on the podcast. I went to a prestigious college, and the few Black people that were there, we just didn't even really have collaboration. Like we didn't really work together. And now that I'm the lone star doing entrepreneurship, people, I don't know anybody doing what I'm doing, whatever. So that's how I started like doing what I'm doing, like trying to meet new people, trying to meet people who are aligned. And it's so important that you have people who are going down the same path, who understand what you're going through at any given point and are also ready to collaborate. Like you can come on their podcast, they can come on your YouTube channel. People can help you find clients. Like we all need each other in this game. And I think that that's really, I love that you said that because that's exactly what I was saying. Like, we need to practice what they call group economics. We need to work with each other to help each other to make money. And until we do that, we'll still be everybody's just going through the same thing, broke and struggling. What if we came together and we're more powerful together?
Yeah.
Because we are.
Yeah. We need to be building our ecosystems, feeding each other.
We will, and that's coming soon. Okay. So I want to start off with people. I got the tricks up my sleeve. Okay. I have a trick up my sleeve for that one. That is definitely coming soon. We're designing, UX designing that. So that's coming soon. So I want to start off the people section with a wild card question. I always start off with a wild card question for my creative guests because I'm like, okay, creatives are not normal. So I like to ask abnormal questions. So, if there was one form of artistic expression, whether a song, book, painting, or exhibit, to encapsulate your childhood, what would it be? And is there an example of that art form that comes to mind for you?
I think art expression, it was definitely drawing when I was younger. And it's so funny. Like now I'm a painter. I paint portraits. Painting is my soul. But when I was younger, I would I would draw pictures of people. I would draw like little doodles of my dad, of my mom, of my brother on like napkin corners. I used to carry this big Skechers box of crayons and markers everywhere I went. And I would just like find anything that I could draw on. And it's funny because I've always been attracted to faces. And until you sent me this question, I never thought about like how that's always been there. I've always been drawing people and now I'm just painting people. So I'd say that that's the expression. And then the piece, oh my goodness, it's shoot, I should have had the name of it. It was on an episode of Blue's Clues. Um, and it was like the art appreciation episode. And my logo is actually based on this piece. Oh gosh. I might have to come back to you with the name of the piece. Yeah. Because I can see it in my head, but I don't have it. So Anyway, moving on.
That's like I feel like Blue's Clues birthed a whole generation.
Oh, girl.
It really did. It really did. It birthed a whole generation. Shout out to Blue's Clues for that, because like, yeah, like that curiosity. And today we are all like sleuthing on the internet. So yeah, Blue's Clues taught us a couple of things about finding things out. But what I was gonna say, no, I love that. I really love the fact that you also gain clarity of like you being attracted to specific art form, drawing, but also faces, because that's so powerful. Like I'll see those people who you'll see those TikToks like they're drawing strangers, and the focus on the face, the focusing in on the face is such a wonderful thing. Like I think when people see their face reflected back to them, it's so powerful for the human, to see how you are seen, not by a mirror, but by the eyes of another person. Like that is a powerful thing. And I think that's a beautiful gift to be able to, do that, to do that portrait work.
Yeah, thank you. I love portraits. They feed my soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, I would say like I relate to that, knowing that I liked, some parts of the art form that I think was top for me would be, I can't believe I'm saying this because I spend a lot of time dancing, but I really grew up loving spoken word as well. Listen, I'm from New York, so if you weren't rapping, you were doing. If you weren't rapping, you were doing spoken word. You were doing some form of like poetry, shifty to music in the back. And until I started performing it myself, I was like, wow, I like this art form. Like it's not like rapping, but it's speaking to music or to drums, and it was like just really natural. I can't think of the exact piece, but many of the spoken word pieces about Black women have resonated so greatly with me, and I really love it as a performance. It's really a performance art. Like you come in, it's your voice, it's your energy, it's your tone, it's how you dress. Like there's a whole movement around it, and I really do love that. So that would be maybe my favorite art form and one I still practice today. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you said spoken word is a whole art because it really is. Like that has every piece, every piece. It has dance, poetry, visual art. That's true. Yeah.
it's definitely an art form. So speaking of art forms, I want to know for you, like, when did you first discover like that you had this artistic gift and these artistic inclinations?
So when I was, oh gosh, maybe like two, I was a baby. I drew this tiny little like bean person and I gave her curls. I gave her like five little curly braids and she had a mole in the same place I do. Oh girl, I was on the wrong side, this side of the mole. And my parents kept that drawing. They still have it on our fridge because they saw that I put them on. They were like, Ashley just made a self portrait. That's so crazy that she like has it to be able to understand that this is where her mole goes. And I think that they, from that moment, just kind of decided like, and now we have an artist. We have an artist in our family. They put me in art classes. I've always loved art class in school. Like, it really came early, and I'm blessed that it came early because I haven't had to do a whole lot of soul searching in that avenue.
Yeah, no, and you had parents that like understood that and didn't steer you away from that path. And like one of the things we talk about on this podcast, especially when we talk about the people, which is like the core, the people section is the beginning where we talk about the core of who you are and the foundation. Like our parents have a lot to do with that. And so many people's parents would say, throw those drawings away. Like, I grew up hearing people tell their kids, throw those drawings away. That's nonsense. You're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be this and that. But you have parents that actually knew, like, hey, this is her gift. This is her gift, not just like something she does, but this is her gift to give to the world. And it's our job to help her get there. That is so powerful. Like I grew up in the drama club and in the dance circuit, and parents were like not really wanting their kids to be professional, even performers. It was kind of like taboo if you said you wanted to be that. It was like, okay, you do this dance, you do the musical theater, you act, but like you can't really do it. We're not really going to support that. So just to hear that like your parents like invested in your growth, I love that. I want that for all the creative kids.
I do too. I'm so lucky. I'm like, shouts out mom and dad. I'm so lucky to have them as my parents. I'm like eternally grateful.
So I want to know like what was the experience like for you like creating from like a young child, and then how did your creative process change over time as you move through your childhood into like adolescence?
Looking back, it's always been the same? Question mark? It's always kind of been the same. Wow. I'm so glad you asked me this. Now that I'm an adult, I'll explain. So, I love drawing on napkins and just like doing little doodles. And I will draw myself as a little character, like a la Lizzie McGuire, just a little tiny Ashley, like with thought bubbles complaining about things that like piss me off in my notebooks. But then But then when it comes to actual pieces, I am very, very slow in creating a piece of art, in creating a painting or a collage. I'm extremely slow. And I wish that I was faster. And like I said, that's why I was so like, it was such a mind exploding moment that I've always been the same. Because even when I was younger, I would get my paints together, I would set up myself, but it would still take me like 2 or 3 days to make a little painting of something. I think I've just always been a bit of a like slower moving artist. And that is why now I'm so interested in like, anti-capitalist practices, anti like productivity practices, because I think that we place people who move quickly on a pedestal, and that's just not how we all work.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's why you're an artist. Because when I think of those of us who are not artists, we are not perfectionists at all. Not like perfectionists in a bad way. I'm talking about like, let me not say perfectionists, but we won't take our time with things. And one thing I will say about the about artists is almost like your hands, especially visual artists I'm talking about, your hands are gifted to kind of like who is it, man? Was it it was Michelangelo and David? Like he definitely he took the stone and he like just like chewed at it bit by bit by bit, and he turned it into the David that we have today. I think the artist has a gift for knowing how to pace themselves to create something meaningful. And like you said, like in the capitalist society that we have, most people just run super duper 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 fast. We don't have that ability to slow down and immerse ourselves in the process. So I would say that's what makes you an artist. You know how to pace yourself to get the intended result, and you know how long it's going to take you to get an intended result. You'll put a group of like, I don't know if you do this with your training, a group of corporate employees in a room and you tell them, hey, draw something. We're drawing stick figures, because it's like we don't care what it looks like. But the artist is saying, like, man, let me sketch and let me outline and let me like shadow with this pencil and that pencil. And it's the attention to detail that's a gift. So I wouldn't even say that's a bad thing. That's just how you operate.
It is, yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, I think that right now something just like got unlocked in me that it is a gift and it's not anything to be ashamed about. But our society, of course, shames anything that takes a long time. So, resisting that, rebuking, getting that away from me.
Exactly. No, rebuke it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now we're in the career section. And even with like all your artistic leanings, I know like you originally wanted to be a teacher, and you were on that path to becoming an educator in the classical American school system. On this path, you also told me that you studied English in college. So I want to kind of get into that. Why English? Why that major? And then is there any part of being an English major that influenced you artistically or even like entrepreneurially?
Mm. Okay, why English? Because I love literature and I loved literature in high school. So I was like, being an artist is an unsustainable, it's an unstable career choice. Let me do something with a lot of stability. Teaching has a lot of stability. I know that I love to teach. That's also something that's like ingrained in my soul, is that I am a teacher. So, went to college, got my English degree, just wanted to chase stability, and here I am not actually wanting that. I think I the overlap between my art and like English. Honestly, I think that where my training around words comes through is in my ability to speak and to write. And I know that I am a good writer. Like I can really, really get down and write something amazing and incredible and resonant. And that has helped me a lot in building a business and in communicating my ideas and pushing my art career forward is the ability to effectively speak and to effectively write. So, got the wrong degree, but I don't regret it at all.
Oh my god. Heavy on the wrong degree. I think for many of us, college just couldn't there was no path that really aligned perfectly with what it is that our internal vision had. So many people can relate to what you're saying. Like, so many people can relate to the, like, "Oh, I want sustainability, so that is why I'm going down this path." And like you, I love education. I actually minored in urban education, but the traditional educational system and I always like to joke and say Abbott Elementary is real life. It's not real life, y'all. At the end of the day, like, the traditional education system, Quinta Brunson makes it look cute. It's not cute. It's actually a tragic job. I realized I couldn't handle that emotionally, and that wasn't something that I wanted to be on. So I think, like, it's wonderful that you understood, like, "Hey, at my core, I'm an educator." And you also educate. You educate through the work that you do. So I love that you talked about, like, understanding what part of the profession was for you versus what part of it wasn't. And then also, like, the English major is so powerful because you have those, like you said, those communication skills that I would say maybe I'm overcompensating when I say this, but I would say a lot of founders lack those skills. Like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs aren't necessarily proficient in those skills. And I think it's because traditionally, like, you don't need to be good at that to be an entrepreneur. But I would say, like, when it comes to the Issa Rae effect, we're gonna take it back to that. Or when it comes to somebody who you're a strong visionary, whether creative, social impact, whatever, you're going to have to be able to communicate that vision on different levels. So being a great communicator helps with that. So I would say, yeah, like I see that as well in you that the English major gave you that ability to think not just about translating the art in terms of the actual physical art, but the words, how you say what you're working on, how you speak about what you're working on. That can also be a form of art when you get to that level, you know?
Yeah, agreed. And it does feel artful. Like I said, I applied for that residency yesterday. And, as we know, I'm a slow worker. I take my time when I'm working on something. And I've been sitting on this application for months, just like, what am I going to say? What are the answers to my questions going to be? And once I actually sat down and started writing, it all came like flying out of me. And I edited it down and I'm really proud of it. It sounded amazing. And now, I wait until the middle of June to find out if I got it. So
Yes, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait with you, and we are believing that it will be a yes. That the opportunity will be a yes. That it's aligned with you. That it will be a yes. So I love that. And honestly, I'm the opposite. I be putting on the timer for 30 minutes. And be like, get this done in 30 minutes. Get this done in 30 minutes and stop overthinking it. I'm the total opposite. But there's benefits in that approach as well. Like there's applications where I'm like, man, if I would have took more time, I would have got that thing, So there's a benefit in really taking your time and stewarding over things. I think some of us have to learn that too. Like, what does it look like to take your time? So let's get into the educational system, right? I know you had a quick stint in the American educational system. On this podcast, we love teachers. We love teachers. Like, we really do love teachers. But we also know how hard the realities of working in our country's public schools are. Real life isn't Abbott Elementary, and we know that. Trust me, we know that. So what was your first teaching experience outside of college? And then, like, what did that teach you?
yeah, so I through college and then after college, I was a substitute teacher. And then I had this like just amazing principal. I'm still obsessed with her. She needed an English teacher that first year after I graduated. I didn't have my certification, but she gave me the opportunity to just teach as a long term sub. So I taught full time for that whole year and I created the curriculum. I did everything that a regular teacher would do. What did that teach me? I love teaching. I loved my classes. I loved my classes. Like if if the school system, if the American school system was better, if teachers were paid more, if students got more resources, if we overhauled it and started over and made something better, teaching would have been my like one job. Teaching would have been what I was supposed to do, what I was put on this earth to do. Howsoever, teachers aren't paid enough. Students don't have access to enough resources. Schools don't have access to enough resources. Um, I was a long-term sub because I didn't have the certification, meaning that I was making $11 an hour teaching full time. Some of my 16-year-old students were making more money than me in their like little in and out jobs. Um, and so, yeah, it just taught me that I love to teach. It's what my soul was meant to do, but not within the institution created for teachers.
Yeah. I I feel that on a spiritual level. I feel that on a spiritual level because honestly, it would have been the same for me. I worked a couple crappy teaching jobs. First of all, I've also worked a couple crappy teaching jobs, but I never was full time because I knew better. I knew better. So I was a part-time teacher. I was the part-time teacher that like I knew better for me that I didn't want to be there all the time. So I was a part-time teacher. People have even told me, and they probably told you the same thing because I feel like you have that spirit. They told me that I was good with young people, like, oh, you just have a gift. You just have a gift for these high schoolers. You're just really good. And, I did, and I do have a gift for working with that age group. But at the same time, I couldn't sign up for that career death sentence. I couldn't do it. And I understand what you're saying in that, like, we do need to overhaul. We do need to think about the talented people who love kids, who love working with young people, but who just are like, we just aren't into it. We're not into how teachers are treated. We're not into the lack of support. We're not into dealing with, even when you're teaching in the majority minority schools, like how the students are policed. I remember I would volunteer at schools in Philadelphia, and I would see the students being pat down in the hallway by security, almost like security's doing a strip search to make sure they have no paraphernalia on them. We'd have to walk through metal detectors, and sometimes they would search your mouth to make sure there's no blade under your tongue. In certain neighborhoods, it's rough with children, absolutely. And I remember I told my parents, I was like, I can't believe like people go through this. I go through this once a week to be here. And I remember one time I was like helping with after school, and the students didn't even have a jump rope to do double dutch. I had to see them literally take two smaller jump ropes, glue them together, and do that for four ropes to do double dutch because they couldn't even afford a rope. Like, I was looking at that reality and I was like, wow, like the children are wonderful, beautiful creatures, don't deserve this bad treatment. The teachers are bitter because they're not getting paid enough. And then the school system just completely continues to fail, continues to fail, continues to fail the kids. At one school that I taught at, somebody got shot. And there was a whole situation, and they were really sad. And I taught virtually, but I could see in their face how sad they were. So I was like, man, like, this is just tough. How do people go through this? How do people, and like you said, like, I feel like education is missing out on so much talent because of the systemic issues. That's a whole nother episode. That's a that's a whole nother episode. But thank you for sharing your experience. That's a whole nother episode though. Yeah, that is. You told me what you loved about teaching. Like, is there anything that you hated about it where it was like, I had this experience and I was just like, man, I can't do this.
Oh, yes.
What
Oh
did these
my gosh.
experiences tell you
Yes.
about your professional preferences going forward?
Yes. I worked with, okay, I was an English teacher. I was given a co-teacher who was a math major. Nonsense. 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 Like what? What? And she was not, English just wasn't her thing. And oftentimes it felt like I was teaching her along with the kids, and she like needed to be teaching along with me to the kids. So that was tough. Making $11 an hour and still having to like purchase pencils for my students to use. I hated that. Learning that my juniors were at a sixth grade reading level. I hated that. um, Teaching during the pandemic. I hated that. There are so many parts of teaching that I really, really, really disliked. Yeah, I hated a lot of it. I have to come back though. I don't want to like end on how much I hated. I will say, regardless of everything that I hated about like teaching in the American school system, what I loved and what a lot of teachers always end up coming back to are the students. The students are such a beacon of light in the classroom. It's like, it's just crazy how easy it is to like fall in love with a group of like young people who have so many aspirations and who want to do really amazing good work and who don't have access to opportunities or social capital or monetary capital. Like, yeah, the students definitely, they definitely kept me going.
Yeah, no, it is the students.
Yeah, it is. That's
It
it.
is
That's
the
all
students that keep you
it
going in
is.
the tough times, and I love the fact that you said, like, fall in love with the students, but that's a testament to your compassion because I've worked in educational spaces and everybody didn't love the students. I literally heard, I guess we're gonna curse today. I literally heard "fuck them kids" like before it was like an actual saying. I heard people say that, so everybody's not there. And I've also heard "I'm here for the check." I've heard that. It's like, oh baby, this baby check. This is what you here for? I think this might be the wrong. This might be the wrong profession, okay? But I've heard that, and your all my educational experiences, it's like you said, it's really the kids, and it's like at the end of the program, the way that they thank you, the way that they give you the card and they support, like it's wonderful. They pour into you spiritually because you pour it into them, and I think that's so unique about education. You're doing something very similar as an entrepreneur, so we're gonna get a little bit into that. We're gonna get a little bit into that, but I want to before that discuss your time from education, right? You were in education. You told me that you went into ed tech sales, an experience that you describe as hyper capitalist. We're not gonna say the company. We're just gonna say it's hyper capitalist. How did working in that type of environment like impact you personally? Did it go against your values? And if so, like how did you handle like that lack of alignment?
It certainly went against my values. The company that I worked for, our goal was to be able to bring high quality education to lower income and rural areas. The vision was that we could use technology to bring teachers into those areas that had like such few teachers. That ain't what happened though. That was not what was happening. And oftentimes I just like, I was frustrated because I possessed critical thinking skills, and some of the salespeople I worked with did not possess those critical thinking skills, and therefore couldn't see the implications of the bad work we were doing. Our goal was to help these students, and oftentimes we were harming the students, period. We were harming the students that we claimed we were helping. So, yes, in terms of operations and like actually delivering the product, that is how that job went against my values. In terms of being a salesperson, and working in an extremely capitalist capacity, everybody's got a goal, everyone's got a mark to hit. You need to be working to hit that mark. Your feet can never be on solid ground unless you have hit your mark. Sucks. Oh, it just sucks so much. And it's awful because we were in a startup. Um there was very little transparency from leadership. It was an extremely like hierarchical decision-making model. I was about to say there's nothing wrong with that, but I deeply believe there is a lot wrong with hierarchical decision making. But yeah, the lack of transparency just made it impossible for any of us to really understand what we were doing. None of us got to see what an actual classroom looked like. So we were essentially handed a script to tell potential clients what it would look like and sell it. Like, sell it. Do what you do, make it happen, use your charm, make it happen. The script we were handed was not what it actually looked like. And then halfway through, I was there for 9 months. So at the 4 month mark, they also decided to add on to our plate customer satisfaction. So we were handed a script to sell. We didn't know what we were selling. And then when it wasn't what it was, we had to be the ones to deal with them. Just garbage. And then, my leader was a bad leader. Her leaders were bad leaders. Girl, I could just go on and on. I could go on and on.
The
Bad,
train, the
bad,
whole chain of command was broken.
horrible. I don't know if that even
I
answered
feel
your
like
question.
no, that gave me a lot, and I'm about to say a couple things. So that no, that gave me a lot. Thank you for sharing. Because number one, like I always tell people, ed tech is dangerous. Not that it's not necessary, but it can be dangerous in that ed tech should ideally support and center the teacher and the student. So I think that when you're building that type of social impact technology, there's something that we have to think about called the beneficiary. Like, who is the person that is supposed to benefit from this? And if we center only the student, the teacher's lives may become worse. Like, you'll see those like curriculum platforms, like sometimes Canvas is one. I'm not going to say like they're a bad platform, but like, say if Canvas was really poorly run from the teacher side. Teachers couldn't upload the modules on Canvas, which would then affect the students. So, like, you have to think about both sides. And that's why I always say, like, ed tech, make sure you really want to go into ed tech before you go into it, because there's so many factors to think about that, like, both student and teacher have to be satisfied. And then you have the school districts. Even if you have under resourced, you're working and teaching in third world countries, you have to think about their culture, their government, their system of learning and education down there. Like there's so much to think about that I think people just don't think about these things. So I love the fact that you talked about that because it just shows you like the hyper capitalist can come from like we're trying to sell without thinking about does this even solve the problem. And I think as an entrepreneur, you can get locked into like let me sell because you want to make money without thinking like hey does this solve the problem. And man, I don't want to say I could guess the fate of the company. Hopefully they're still alive. But when you hear certain stories like this, you're like, okay, I can kind of guess where this thing is going. And damn, that's sad.
Sad,
Mm.
right? Horrible. I'm glad I left.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I want to get into the second part of your career, like today, what you're doing. Let's think about the happy time. I feel like your story represents what a lot of us go through before we find our way. We gotta go to different paths, try different things out, discover things about ourselves. So I'm glad that you had that discovery. So now I know that today you describe yourself as not only an artistic entrepreneur but an educator, right? So why artist, entrepreneur, educator? And what would you say to the artists who box themselves into just an artist role?
Artist, educator, entrepreneur. Being an artist and being an educator are who I am. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just so happen to love working for myself. I also, it's really important to me that my professional work is meant to help people. I don't think I could do a job unless I was able to witness the way that the work that I do is helpful and benefiting other people. Um, for other artists who have boxed themselves into just being an artist, I have like a double-edged answer. On one side, I'm very jealous of them, and I think that that is where I'd like to be, is to just get to a place where I'm comfortable calling myself only an artist. And the reason why I'm not there yet is because of how everything's set up. It's like you need your money first. You need to have your business set up first to allow yourself to get to the creativity. Um, and the more and more I'm chipping away at my career, the more I'm realizing that that's not necessarily true, but it is a huge risk that you have to take to just trust in only your vision and only your talent and let that ride until the end. That's like, ooh, it stresses me out because I don't see a stable pathway yet. So that's one answer, is that I'm jealous of people who are just artists. On the other side, though, I think my mentor was right in advising people to not build a single-legged stool. And to me, being an artist right now looks like a single-legged stool to me. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that that's actually true, but you have to have multiple verticals. Like you said, like you have to have various, what some might call unstable income sources to create one stable stool top. Like one stable income is going to come from a bunch of unstable ones. And I think that that's where I am now, is just building out those other stool legs. That way I have various sources other than just the one.
Yeah, so I remember I went to a entrepreneurship like accelerator in Colorado, and one of the guy who was the instructor, and he was like a serial entrepreneur. He talked about this like hustling phase, and he kind of described it as like a firefighter trying to put out fires. And I was like, wait, but when I think of at the beginning what it looks like, you're trying different things and you're trying to figure out what works. And that process of experimentation, a lot of people don't understand, but it's so necessary. And that's why we talked about verticals. Like, get try different verticals because it might be the digital prints for one person. They could be the Etsy artist with the digital prints. Cool. For another person, it might be the creative coaching and the workshops. For another person, it might be just posting on social media or even doing TikToks with them doing their art. Sometimes I'm like, do these TikTok artists sell their art? They just like show videos of them making their art. Sometimes they sell them, sometimes they don't. But like everybody has a different way of doing this thing. So I think it's great that you're like embracing experimentation. But I feel you about the like, I feel you on the like jealous of people who have like gotten to that place where they could just be one thing and that's just that one thing. But I think you also can respect that it takes time. For most people, it takes time to get there. It takes time to figure out like what's your one thing that like is your one thing that you can just really do and like do that one thing really, really well. Like it takes time to get there. And my journey has been ups and downs as well, more than one business, etc. But one of the things that I've realized is like, okay, now I kind of know what my thing is. Like, I feel like media is my thing. Like, connecting with people, doing the podcast, doing the writing, like that's my thing. So, okay, so let me center my advocacy work around that. So, I had to try different things to realize because I was doing project management and DEI and I hated it because I didn't like answering to people's schedule or whatever. And I'm like, okay, like what's my special thing? And it takes time to find. I'm a year in, and sometimes I'm like, why didn't I know this was my special thing? I used to write for the paper in college, and I produced a podcast in college. Like, why didn't I know? Because I didn't think. Like, I still had my mindset of like, this is what a business person looks like. A business person can't be a podcaster writer. That's not what. But I can take my business thinking and apply it to that work, to my media work. So, like, I'm starting to learn what my thing is. I just got the revelation the other day, and I'm over a year in this.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful. I love to hear that.
it comes late. It comes late for a lot of us. It comes late. But I think like when it comes, it comes. So I totally agree. And hopefully you will get to that point where you can literally just be artists. I'll get to that point where I can literally just do the content and the businesses run themselves.
Yes.
But
Yes. And we'll
we
be
gotta
there
grind. We
together.
gotta grind.
We'll be there together sipping
No, we will be there together.
champagne.
Absolutely. No, we will be there. Okay. So my next question for you is like your journey to getting there, right? I know you said you were on an eat, pray, work vibe, which is very interesting. Which is very interesting. What was the aha moment for you when you knew you had to like step up and embrace your entrepreneurial potential?
I left that last ed tech job, and thankfully I had money to save, or I had money saved where I could just live. And also something happened with payroll where I got an extra $2,000 after leaving that job that I was not supposed, so like what? So I was okay for a little bit right after that job. And for about 2 months, I just did nothing. I woke up, I went to the gym, I went on walks, I hung out with my friends, I did nothing. And it was so nice. I went back home to Vegas, like I chilled. And this was in, let's see, I left in October. So I did nothing October and November. And then in December, I'm a really spiritual person and I have different ways of, tapping into that. And one way happens to be the tarot cards. So I was pulling my tarot for the new year and I was just like, what do I need to know right now? Like, as I'm moving toward the new year, what is that looking like? And I remember it was like, I got the Tower card. I don't know if you know much about tarot, but the Tower is like, girl, your shit's coming down. The building is on fire. You got to jump out of the window. Like, things are about to look bad. And I was like, oh God, no, this isn't what I want. But what I find so beautiful about the tarot as a medium is that it is like, it will give you an image, and then it's up to you and your intuition to be able to decipher what the image means. So I immediately knew that the tower meant like, if I did not do something, everything was going to crumble. So that was my follow up question. What do I need to do? And it said, start working. And I don't know. I think I just knew. Like, I just knew that my creativity deserved to have a chance to be put up on a pedestal. My entrepreneurship deserved a chance. Like, and I also was traumatized by my last job and knew I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. So it was all very organic. I got the reading. I figured out what my business was generally going to be. And I just straight up started calling colleges and selling and seeing who would buy. And here we are a year and a half later.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. I was like, that is such a like Scorpio thing to do. Go through things in your life and then pull the cards. Okay. But I think that no, I remember that because I do remember that. Number one, to just like navigate that understanding, like there is a way out. The house is crumbling, but there is a way out. And I love that you talked about like putting your artistic gifts on a pedestal because I think that, damn, like a lot of us are just waking up to like, we're waking up out of the sleep. We're waking up out of the slumber of like, you've been putting this gift away for how long? Not me about to cry.
Oh my gosh. Yes,
No,
cry, cry,
I'm not about to
cry.
cry. But no, not. But I feel like a lot of us are waking up to like what I put on the shelf is really what God has given me to go out there and make money. And I think like man, what your story mirrors my story a lot because I was at a point in my life where I knew what I had a passion for. I couldn't find a job. I was a one person always going to the third round. And I went to the final round for like top Fortune 500 places. Like I was trying to work in media or tech. I was like, I narrowed down the fields that I want to go into. I don't want to do consulting or investment banking, which is what a lot of my peers did. I want to work directly in the industry, media, tech, or marketing and advertising. I had like literally listed out what I wanted. It didn't work out that way for me. And I was like, damn, so what do I do? Right? I found some grant competitions. I started applying with my idea. I started getting funding. I started getting invited here or there. So what I think the world will do when you're ready is the resources will start coming. And right now, like I'm still learning how to like do this thing because like when I said I was going to start a podcast, people are like, "Well, you're already running this. Like, what are you doing?" But the way that like now I have like I'm turning guests down, not turning them down, but I'm like, "Hey, get on the wait list because it's potential's there," you know. So I think like what I realize is we just have to answer. You have to answer to the call, and when like you said, when your intuition tells you move, get up and move. And you might not have all the pieces, but get up and move. Figure it out as you go along. Get up and move because no one is gonna come to save you. I literally had a dream where I had a dream, and in the dream, someone said, "No one is coming to save you. You have to make this work." And I was like, "What?" Because at that point, I was about to quit identity. I was like, DEI is going down the drain. I'm building out this tech. I'm tired, whatever. Then I heard, "No one is going to come to save you. You have to make it work." And I heard the voice so loud, like, "You have to make it work." There's moments where it's like, no one's coming to save me. What am I gonna do? You know, in the industries that I wanted to work in, being an entrepreneur is like it's like kiss your career goodbye in these industries because they're gonna see you as you're gonna take the check and run. So when I started at 22 years old, I knew what I was signing up. I knew that I had kissed the corporate life goodbye. I'd never be able to access that space again because they see me as a flight risk. I have more than one business. I pursued that. They're like, oh, she's gonna go and do it again. She's not gonna stay. So I just when I heard that voice say like no one's coming to save you, like, oh my God, it hit me like no one is coming to save me because no one is coming to save me. And either I make this work and I grind my face off to make it work, or nothing happens. So I love that because your story mirrors so many of our stories, you know, when it comes to that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you have like prophetic dreams. I do too. But no one's coming to save you is like scary though.
No, I literally heard the voice of God say, "No one is coming to save you. You have to make this work." And literally, like, I can get like some of the revelations that I've gotten. I can't go into this episode, but maybe we'll have another
I know,
conversation
right? This
about the
is a whole
revelations that I've gotten.
thing.
I remember one time I was trying to get a speaker together because I was working in DEI at my university at the time. And I was trying to get a speaker. You know, you always have those speaker series and like webinars and stuff. And I was trying to get a speaker and I called and the woman was like, you know, my intuition, my spirit told me to call you back. And we talked on the phone and she was like, what you're doing is great. You know, what are you doing? I said, hey, like my job is just to organize these events, whatever. She was like, what you're doing is great, but you're not supposed to be in the background. I said, what do you mean by that? She said, you're not supposed to be doing administrative work. And I'm like, wait, wait, wait. So what do you mean by that? I'm not supposed to be doing administrative work. But as time went on, it was like the corporate career that I wanted was not the plan that was for me. I wasn't supposed to be doing that type of work. And granted, like it would have been an easier path to success. I wouldn't be on my behind like crazy thinking about this bill or that bill. But sometimes we think we're in control and we're really not in control. Like she told me that 2 years before I had graduated. And I'm like, what does she mean? Like, I'm not supposed to be doing office work. I'm not supposed to be working in an office. What does she mean? But I guess she saw where I was really supposed to be. She was like, hey, you're great with people. You need to use that. I was like, wait, what does she mean? And the work that I do is so people focused and so human focused. Like she saw that from the jump. And I didn't see that. You know, so I even have like stories of like how my purpose was revealed to me through other people's insights. But I love that you said that like, yeah, like nobody's coming to save you. However the spirit communicates to you, it does.
It
And you have to
does.
answer. You know, you have to be
Yes.
willing to answer. You know?
Absolutely. Agreed.
Okay, that was a little woo woo.
It was.
So introduce us to the work you do. Introduce us to the work that you do at Express Ease workshops. Like, what do you provide everyday professionals with that they are often missing out in their day to day work and lives?
Yes. Oh my gosh, of course. So, like I said at the top, I help leaders and creatives resist perfectionism by tapping into their creativity. I think that art making and giving yourself the stage to indulge in a creative practice is great practice for just doing something. Oftentimes our jobs are breeding grounds for trying to find the right answer. And my goal with my business are to give people spaces where they do not have to worry about there being any sort of right answer. They can just create, they could follow their own process, however long, however short it takes them, and just see what comes of it. And oftentimes, what comes of it is you end up finding the answer that you can follow, but you need to give yourself the space to actually get there. What this looks like is I offer, it's 3 tier. So I offer workshops, one-on-one coaching, and then I'm also starting a podcast called The Unpolished Path very soon. And I'm super excited to have you on that. But my workshops follow a creative philosophy that I created around anti perfectionism. There are 4 foundations: reclamation, which is reclaiming your role as a creative and a creator, collaboration, bringing in other people, trusting that, resisting like hierarchical decision making, as I said earlier, abstraction, allowing yourself to think outside of the box and muddy the representational imagery that a lot of us get stuck in. And then the last is incubation, which is my favorite. And that is building an active rest practice into your daily life. So I offer workshops in all of those topics. I also offer a suite of workshops where we hit all 4 with your team. One-on-one coaching, that is more for my creatives who actually have a vision of what they want to create, but maybe get stuck in that analysis paralysis phase and can't actually move forward to do the thing. So I help creatives in that way. And then lastly, I'm very excited to announce I will be starting a podcast all about creativity and anti-perfectionist practices called The Unpolished Path. It's coming very soon. Soraya will be on there with me. And that's what I do. And then I'm an artist too. I'm a painter. I love painting.
First of all, you have a three-legged stool. We heard the revenue streams. We heard what you're working on. We heard what you're doing. And I love how you have a mixture of everything. So you have a mixture of like more group solutions, which are like the workshops. You have the paint. So you have the like, hey, if you want to support my individual art, here's how you can do that. And then you also do have the one-on-one coaching and then the podcast, which is a major way of promotion and connection. Like I think nowadays as a founder, you are a brand in itself. And people are curious about you. Oftentimes, we're curious about the people behind the companies that we support. And it helps to be able to bringing it back to English major, speak in a way that engages people, talk about your work in a way that inspires people. And that's really exciting. And it's funny because you doing that podcast is divine timing because I started my Soraya versus Culture Substack. I started it. I just started it. And I also have my Soraya versus newsletter. And we have a pretty solid following already in the newsletter. I publish monthly. I'm trying to do bi-weekly. So I'm trying to get back into writing in the preparation for my book launch this year. So it's been a lot because like you, I wear all the hats. Sometimes I feel like, dang, like people think I'm crazy because I wear a lot of the hats. But I love the fact that, you know, you're taking the risk and you're doing the three-legged. I see the three legs on the stool and potentially a fourth leg. You know, I see a potential fourth leg and I know like you're building. That's really what matters. So I loved hearing that. I loved hearing like what you offer. And I know that you've been thoughtful about it too because it seems like you know what the people want and you're giving them that. So I also do appreciate that.
Soraya, oh my gosh. I love talking to you. Thank you so much. You make me feel so good.
Yeah, no, it's my gift. It's my gift. Yeah, sign up for my coaching.
Period.
Nah, but I'm about to
Yes.
debut my coaching too. I'm about to debut my career coaching too because I've been on that grind. I've been on that grind. So I want to ask you, we have our last couple questions really, really quick. We have a section called culture. And the reason why we call ourselves the podcast for the people, the career, the culture is because we understand that culture I would say culture in two ways. Our identities affect how we see our work. I'm the DEI practitioner, so we talk about that a lot. Like, how do our identities affect how we see our work? And then culture, as in, there are cultures and subcultures you want to impact. I could think of you wanting to impact the art world's culture, even thinking about like the subcultures that you exist in as well in the Chicago artist scene or etc. So I think I want to talk to you a little bit about like what you think your cultural impact will be. And yeah, just forward thinking, future thinking stuff. So my first question for you in this section is like how do you envision your entrepreneurial journey changing the art world or even changing what the face of art looks like?
I don't think I envision changing the art world. I don't think I envision changing the art world. What I hope for in the future is to have a really genuine, authentic community around me where we just like give each other opportunities and we all got the bag at the same time. I wish that I had the save the world bone in me still, but I feel like, you know, the older I'm getting, that's just a big job. And I'm, you know, I like to relax. So I think I just want to be able to like feed my people, have my people feed me, and give of myself in that way. That's what I hope. That's what I hope for in my future.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I love that. No, I really do love that because I think number one, we're only young once. So there's a lot that happens in our youth that when we look to the future, I'm sure you have, goals in your personal life that you want to achieve as well. And that affects our availability for like, what it is that we can do now versus what we can probably do later. So I really do love that. And I think that's a very important part of just understanding like, hey, like, am I going to change this? Am I not going to change this? Well, I want to say like you even just being yourself is going to change the face of what art looks like. Because I think that so shout out to Veronica. I don't know where she's at. But she's the person that told me that I should meet with you. And I'm like, okay, usually when people say like you should meet with this person, people always are sending me, hey, meet with this person, emails, right? I feel like when I heard that you were a Black female artist, I'm like, okay, she's different because I don't really meet a lot of Black female artists or even artists of color. And that's why I not only do I want to support the designer that I work with to being part of your coaching, and we're going to talk a little bit about that offline. But I also have a lot of UX designers now. We recruited across Identity and Innova North 10 UX designers. So there's plenty of creatives that I can recommend and refer to you. And they're all, what is amazing about them is they're all creatives of color. I saw you as like a luminary in the space because I was like, I don't know nobody like her, like doing what she's doing. And that's why even when I went to Chicago, I was like, I have to meet with you in person because I felt like I don't know anybody doing what you're doing. And that's why I'm pointing so many people, you about to get the email. Trust me, you're going to get the email after this of me pointing the designers that I'm working with to you. Many of them want to break into UX, like they know they're creative, but they don't really know how to do that or even have a confidence in building a portfolio or, and I think I love the fact that you're able to be that person, that resource. So what I will say is like, even what you're doing now, you're becoming that person that's changing what art looks like. Cause I was thinking art is like a Nepo baby perfect. I got to keep it real. It's a Nepo baby thing. You have to be white, you have to be rich, to get involved in it. And like usually like people that look like us can't be involved in it, but your presence is changing that for a lot of people. And I know that your coaching will open that door for a lot of people. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So this question is about the wellness space. So I know like you're not just like art, but you're like art and thinking about wellness as well. Like you talked about like reclaiming, restoring, like thinking a lot about like using art as a form of I guess healing our professional identities,
Yeah.
and really connecting with
Ooh.
ourselves.
Ooh. I want to write that down, what you just said.
Yeah, no, healing our professional identities because a lot of us are broken in that area. Okay, I'm about to throw my coaching link, throw my coaching consultation link in the description box for this episode. So the wellness space is traditionally not as diverse or inclusive. Like, how do you plan to use your art, your focus on art and wellness to bring healing to like, especially those from underrepresented groups?
Oh my gosh. Ooh, yes. Girl, I'm trying to be like Issa. I want to have the Ashley Fluellen effect, low key. Like I want to be able to give people opportunities. I have a lot of creative friends who are kind of hands in different buckets. TV writing, book writing, art is mine. And I'm hoping that in this community that I want to build, in this ecosystem that I want to have, we could just have like a dope black directory of cool black brown people who we could just pick from. So my hope is to be able to provide opportunities. I also have a dream of having my own gallery space, and showcasing art in that space that really speaks to me and speaks to my community. Like I said, college is super important to me. Girl, manifesting. I know that in my life I'm going to get an honorary master's. I hope that in my life I'm going to get an honorary doctorate. And I also expect in my life to be able to teach a college class or two or 10 at some point. Yeah, manifest it. Yeah, I want to be able to uplift. I want us all to lock arms and uplift each other at the same time. That's really my goal in this world.
Yeah, amazing, 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 amazing. Okay, so I think that's it. I think we're good. I think we have. Yeah, no, I think this was an amazing conversation, and I really, really loved your honesty, your spirit in this conversation, as well as just the openness. And I want that for all of us that we can get together and really support each other because that's what's needed in the Black creative community. That's so needed. I feel like when I look at the Black creative side, Black creatives are collaborating more than Black and brown creatives, more than Black and brown entrepreneurs. But even then, like one of the blessings has been entering into this space because I've met so many amazing people. And I know you probably have like the similar like testimony of like how many people you meet when you finally do answer to your purpose, how many amazing people show up. The wealth in just the network, it's crazy to me. Like I've never really understood your network is your net worth until now. And I think the work that I do is so intersectional. I work a lot with closely with designers. I work very closely with tech people. I work very closely with DEI people. I think it's amazing to like be able to say like, hey, like I know this person who's doing this coaching and I think it would be great for you. And it's amazing that we can create these systems for each other. So that is really amazing. So Ashley, anything you have to say to the people on the podcast? Anything before we tune out?
I think I would just say, let's see, invest in your creativity, take your pivots very seriously, and reach out to me and Soraya. Let's work together. Let's lock arms. I want to be talking to more creatives. My personal group is very creative, but I will say that in building this business, I have a lot more corporate contacts than I do like artistic contacts. So I'm really, really interested in building my artistic community. And please, like, do not be a stranger. I love making friends. I'm very nice. And I want to be talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, y'all. Take care. This is Soraya from The Personal Professional, and we are out. Boom. All right, everybody. Ashley is an amazing artist, visionary, and cultural icon in the making. Yep, I called it here first. This episode had so many laugh out loud moments, but most importantly, it inspired us to unleash the artist within. Ashley's journey represents that if we just keep swimming, we will eventually arrive at the destination. From her pivoting out of educational technology sales into the amazing facilitator and creator she is today, let her journey be proof that it's possible. Yes, if it happened for Ashley, it can happen for you as well. Through her journey, we have witnessed the power of creativity to transform your life, how artists can balance both the business and the creative side, and how to find your niche when you have multiple talents. From art to education and accountability coaching, Ashley, we see you. We wish you much success. Anyway, this is Soraya, and we're out with the podcast for the people, your career, and the culture. Peace. I'm out.